My customer is the parent. My consumer is the kid.
You should be speaking the language of your target consumer, and so much so that you're confusing people who are not your consumer.
Let's just get to the point that we have so many followers and so many people that we accidentally make money.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Brand Fathers. Today, we have a special guest, one of the founders of Baseball Lifestyle 101. Now, if you don't know what Baseball Lifestyle 101 is, chances are you do not have a son or a daughter who plays baseball and or softball. I have one here, a son, that is, who is
What up, dude?
who is obsessed with this brand. We discovered this through his friends and his cousins, and it has hit the radar recently, and I'm fascinated with brands like yours. Today, we're going to hit you with questions about the founding of this, e-com. Y'all are crushing in the space. So welcome to the show. Where does this podcast find you, Bill?
Yes, I'm sitting in a VIP space in Omaha, Nebraska during the College World Series. We have a pop-up location that we've been doing every year since 2018. This year, we took it a step up. So we took over a bar space around the corner. So every kid, every parent who spends $100 in our booth while here gets access to this VIP space. We have influencers who are from the baseball world coming in from all over the country. They're going to do content out of here, different things. Kids are going to get to do meet and greets. Also, one of the biggest members of the Savannah Bananas, Jackson Olson, been one of our guys for a long time. Jackson's dropping his clothing line with us tomorrow. So he'll be here. He'll do signings. He'll do a whole bunch of stuff. So that's where I'm sitting today.
Perfect. We got questions about the banana collection and the association. So we'll get into that. But first, I actually just want to ground people in what is the product that you're selling and what is the kind of core offering? I've seen it with my own eyes, but for our listeners who maybe aren't familiar, what were those early products, and then kind of what are the staples, if you can explain it to people?
Yeah, so Baseball Lifestyle sells, lifestyle apparel for baseball fans. As we've moved along, it started to age even down more than when we first got started. Our primary avatar probably used to be a 15-year-old. I would tell you now our primary avatar is closer to an 11-year-old. Now we still have a lot more 15-year-olds today than we had then, but the 11-year-old and down crowd has actually gone, hyper viral. So we're selling clothing, so shorts, sweatshirts, t-shirts, the whole nines. But I would tell you that our biggest claim to fame is that our quality is way higher than you would expect. Maybe not our t-shirts just yet. We're working on making our t-shirts super high quality, but some of our hoodies, some of our things, we're made in the same factory, same places as Gymshark represent. We really are pushing the envelope there. Our shorts, our mesh shorts, which is huge for us, which we have these ice cream shorts. If you've seen young kids walking around in ice cream shorts, that's me. So if you actually go to Dick's Sporting Goods website and you go to boys clothing, shop all, you segment for top seller. We're the number 1, number 3, number 5, number 7, number 8 total products in all of boys, right? But the number 1 is those ice cream shorts on the left, the blue ones.
Yep.
So these are modeled very much off of Eric Emanuel's shorts from a quality standpoint. So an Eric Emanuel pair might be $90 to $140 depending on what you're getting into. We're selling these shorts for $49.99, which for the quality of them is below what streetwear would be. But from a youth market, I'm probably twice as expensive as the normal pair. So we fit in this really nice sweet spot. And we know people who've had our shorts for, 3 years now, and they washed them 1,000 times and they still look exactly brand new. So our quality is exceptional on that level. And that's what really we're known for at this point.
I will say you have a stranglehold on Orange County, California, where I live. So as you probably know.
Same in Dallas, Texas, man. I mean, and all the people who responded to so a lot of it started, I was in a Dick's Sporting Goods. I do these retail walkthroughs, all of us do in different formats. And I do these sporting goods walkthroughs. And I was excited to see your brand there. All kinds of people are responding and it's not just baseball kids now. It's all these other kids wearing the ice cream shorts and all that.
If the cool kid happens to be the baseball kid, then all of a sudden you got the ripple effects. You're
exactly. Yeah. Why don't you tell us just a little bit about the brand itself and how you became a co-founder of this absolute cult following right now?
Yeah, so I think we have an interesting story in general. Josh, my co-founder, was actually one of the athletes. I was a strength and conditioning coach. I had gone to college for marketing, decided that I had this business I had built, didn't want to go into consulting. I was actually doing my interviews with Accenture and some other brands. I was like, I don't want the shirt and tie every day. I want to have my own thing. I'm training all these guys. 2 of my guys are about to go to the NFL. Let me open up a gym. This tiny kid kept asking me questions while he was younger. And then when he was about 15, Instagram started. We started up the account. I was helping him, giving him insight every day. Brand kept growing, kept growing, kept growing. 2018, we did $1 million, no ads, no anything, just purely from the community. Decided we came to Omaha for the first time that year. We were getting crushed. We were like, hey, this is a real business and we need to treat it like that. So you fast forward to now, we've been really working on this for 12 years. But over the last 3 or 4, it's really exploded. This year, we'll do anywhere between 150, 200 million.
Good Lord. So I saw a tweet. Maybe it was from you. Maybe it was from Josh. That a couple of years ago, you guys were at 5 million. This year, you're kind of putting figures out of 150 to 200. That's astronomical growth by all means. What are like the top 3 like contributing factors?
So great question. We hear that all the time. Number one, we had already built up the content community a long time ago. When Josh was younger, he was like, hey, I want to start clothes. We had 5,000 followers. I'm like, dude, if we start selling clothes now, 3% conversion on your traffic to your website, 3% conversion on the site, you're going to make 1 sale a day at best, if things are going perfect. So I was like, instead, let's just focus on the brand. So for a number of years, it was just that we were organically going after everything. 2018, like I said, 0 advertising. 2019, we started running ads for the first time. So by the time we got to COVID, we really weren't in a situation where we could take advantage of that COVID boom. So because of that, we were kind of sitting in this just grow, bootstrap, no money invested, nothing else in. We didn't know financing. We didn't know a whole bunch of things. As time went on, we got to 2022 and a buddy of mine was running the finance stuff for Shinesty. I reached out to him. I was like, hey, we need financial help. I think that this business is way better than what we're doing. And I don't know why. Come in and tell us. And he's like, you guys are super profitable on first purchase. You just aren't applying debt well, and you don't know how aggressive you can be. Number one thing, which is financial acumen, knowing what that is. Number 2, it was that we've been building this brand and focusing on brands specifically through content and community from the jump. So we already had those things. So once we were able to then pour some of the gasoline on that fire, it just started to take off. And then the last reason that we've grown tremendously in such a short period of time is all of that fervor and all of that community underneath that. Then add in that we go to wholesale, we start working at Dick's Sporting Goods, we do everything else. And we did our first test with DSG, 50 stores, October 15th, 2024. By December 15th, 2024, we were in 160. By January 15th, we were in 330. By March 15th, we were in a little over 500. And now today we're in all 750 DSGs. We're also in every academy. We're in every Shields. We're in over 300 Hibbett sports. We'll be in 268 Dunham sports by the start of Q4. And now we're just turning away other vendors. You know, we've had people like Dillard's reach out, a whole bunch of other things. So those are the 3 big pillars of success inside of this all of a sudden massive boom.
Do you find that when you have all these retailers, you're expanding within them or new ones are coming to you, that they're already really familiar with the content, with the community, and they've like seen that organically online?
Yeah, so Shields was the first one to reach out. They had seen it and they were the first to move. Shields is almost always the first to move. If you like listen to the community at all, they're the best vendor to work with. And then Dick's Sporting Goods and I had a conversation a couple of years ago, and he was asking questions. He was like, "I'll give you an online test," and I was just like, "Nah, I don't think that's what I need. I want in-person expansion. So if you don't think I'm ready, I'm willing to wait." So then early 2024, we went on a kind of road trip. Academy said yes, they knew the brands, they knew everything else. They were like, yeah. DSG was hesitant, so they actually passed on us to do an in-store test again then. But by the summertime, they were getting so much search traffic to their website that they were like, hey, we need you guys for an in-store test. And our success obviously was bellied by the fact that they even underestimated how good we are. And that goes back to like a lot of the vendors are only just getting into the game, that they use search, right? They're looking at search terms, they're looking at search volumes, and they think that's the number one form of how people get found. And then you look at me and I'm like, guys, I'm getting 30 million views on social media a month. I have, millions of people come to my website, direct traffic. I know my search is not as high as you think, but that's because my website is 5 letters. It's bl101.com.
Yeah, and they're moving through social media. I think for the listeners out there, like the pent up demand when you have that much online online activity is so hard for other people to understand. And so finding a way to be able to describe that, or ideally having your target market and the buyers at the retail kind of overlap if they're dads or whatever it looks like, is crucial.
Yeah, Bill. So I'm curious. Let's talk about the social real quick because we've seen it today. You were mentioning like you had 5,000 followers. Your partner was building this kind of Instagram. Like, can you talk to us about that organic growth in social? Like, where did it start? And it sounds like y'all pivoted into apparel after building the content and kind of community. So what were the pillars there and how did that growth go and what kind of drove that growth?
Yeah. So once he got to those 5,000 followers and I said, lean into the community, Josh actually posted every hour on the hour from noon to midnight for about 8 straight years. So back then when Instagram was a volume game, if you go to our account right now, I'm pretty sure there's 23,000 plus posts. That doesn't obviously include stories and things that have gone away. So, you're talking across all socials, we're probably 40, 50,000 posts deep across everything. So we won volume to the game a lot. Two, once Josh was, had gotten all of the free products he could ever get from, the Nikes and the Adidases and everybody else, I was like, all right, cool. Do you want to grow the business or do you want to keep getting free stuff? And he's like, grow the business. Cool. We're going to give it away. So like, if you guys go back in time, like we're probably one of the first influencers ever. Now, 2015, we had 50,000 followers, so early in the game of that whole thing. At one point in time, we had more followers than Adidas baseball. We had more followers than the MLB proper. So everybody was reaching out for posts. Everybody wanted to do content. So that's actually how we got the capital, was we were doing all of the posting and we were getting media dollars and it was free money, right? So that then allowed us to invest.
So I want to talk about this idea because a couple things stood out as you're talking about like building content from the jump. So number one, Josh said, hey, I want to go sell apparel. You're like, dude, we've got an account with 5,000 followers. The conversion, we're going to sell like one product a day at best if we do something here. So first I want to unpack that a little bit because I think there's a lot of people who are starting apparel businesses or any kind of businesses have maybe a fraction of that 5,000 followers and they're still like, I've got 1,000 followers, like I can go make hats and sell it to them and I'm going to be wildly successful. And it sounds like you were maybe not necessarily like in this world of like building brands and scaling them prior. So how did you kind of like see this ahead of time and say, hey, listen, even though 2015, we have 5,000 followers, we may be a top like percentile or decile brand, it's still not enough. And we need to shift the focus to creating content, building audience before we ever think about building apparel. Like walk me through some of your thinking back then.
Yeah, so great question. And like I said, I had gone to college for marketing and then I was going to go into marketing consulting, right? So that was my first kind of move. And like I did some projects and things with Under Armour centered around lacrosse while I was in college, won a few awards doing some stuff there. And then when I made the decision that I was going to go into business for myself, doing my thing, I still was like doing online writing, right? So I would go to some of the big websites. There was a company called T Nation that was big at the time, that hugely popular, and every big strength and conditioning coach who wanted to do anything online, sell a product, do anything like that, they would write articles through there. So I was doing digital writing. I was writing for them. I was trying to do stuff for muscle and fitness, men's health. I was going on speaker tours. So I was doing like the content generation side, right? Like be a digital specialist, right? Become the guru in that space. So I had done, e-zines, all these things that hyperlinked back to your website. Like I learned all that stuff and I was just applying it in a completely different sphere. So then when I met Josh, it was just like I was already in that mode, but I was in a business that was an in-person business for the most part. So I just wasn't applying it as much. So when I had him, it was kind of like, okay, this allows me to scratch the itch. I can just consult with him and do this. And, I'm helping one of my athletes. I'm being a good mentor. I'm doing all the stuff. I was really inspired long time ago in that kind of era, probably by Gary Vaynerchuk. So like I was probably super early on one of his, first books before he really became the guy, the one that's green. I forget what it was called at the time.
I'm right there with you, brother. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and Gary was always talking about how do you create more content. So, probably at that same time, I'm like, Instagram's now this blue ocean, right? Again, blue ocean strategy, go back in time to all the books of my era. I'm like, hey, you have an opportunity. Like, and this is probably simultaneously not too long around the time that people were trying to figure out how Facebook was going to monetize. And everybody was saying, oh, Facebook's never going to be able to make any money. Why do they value so highly? And I said to Josh, I'm like, the reason why Facebook's going to win is when they decided to monetize, they were already cool. And they got to the point that they had gotten so pervasive in the community that once they started to ask for money and they started to do stuff, they were so integrated that you couldn't unclick them. So I was like, let's just get to the point that we have so many followers and so many people that we accidentally make money. Now, I look prophetic when you look at it now. But at the time, I know it was a little bit more risky, but he was a young kid. and I had another business. So it wasn't something that either of us needed to be this mega thing. So that just allowed us to be patient, really learn the game, really learn how to execute at a high level. And that then has allowed us to be this successful.
So when you launched your, first article of clothing or several sets, what year was that? And I'm assuming you launched it to this community that you had built. What was the impact and kind of conversion and some of the numbers at that stage?
Yeah. So 2016, we for Q4, we set up and we were like ready to do some stuff. And we didn't have very many products. We were selling a lot of Rawlings wallets and stuff like that. We were just like, okay, anything that lives a baseball lifestyle, let's just sell it. Let's see how it goes. And we sold 26 grand, all just, popped the website up, opened up, said we're selling things, did 26 grand for November, realized that there's, a business that needs to get built there. My wife quit her job to go be our CMO. She was our first employee, and she was going to work it every day. And she had gotten a job in marketing, was working in a not-for-profit. She's like, hey, I'd rather, start an agency. So we actually had an agency up until last year, doing sports marketing for a bunch of companies. And when we then went 2017, we did about $850,000, a combination of selling clothing and still marketing, still selling posts, still selling access. So we got to the point that, it was like $1,500 for a post, because we had, 500,000 followers, and everybody's like, hey, if we posted, companies kept coming back and be like, hey, if I buy 10, can it be 12,500? And we were like, sure. And then I finally am like, if Adidas keeps paying us 10 grand every month, let's stop taking Adidas's money and let's just start selling more of our own stuff. And then 2018 was kind of that transition. When we came to Omaha, we got shut down by the fire marshal multiple times, and it was because we had too many people in our space.
Quality problem.
And yeah, for sure. And so I pulled him aside and I was like, hey, dude, I think this is a bigger business than we both thought. I think that there's like real legs here and there's something for us. We got to make this transition. Like, do you want to build this into a bigger thing, or do you like what it is? Like, let's make that choice today. Like, do you want to be an influencer who sells merch, or do you want to be a brand that sells clothes? And he's like, I want to be a brand that sells clothes. So we pivoted in 2018. Then 2019, we actually established the advertising, all the stuff. And that's how we kind of got ourselves launched. But I told him real early, I said, hey, let's just buy a lot of clothing that has our logo on it. Because worst case scenario, we can always sell our logo stuff to people. But if we stretch too far early, we might sell some clothes that are fad. We could get stuck with the bag if all of a sudden it pivots, but you can always sell your logo. And then we had a few viral products, viral at the time, that just allowed us to kind of get cash rapidly and start to work on a model. And if you know our business a little bit now, we drop a new products and a new collection every single Friday for 5 straight years. So I've done 250 plus product drops in the last 5 years, not counting little micro Tuesday drops.
Can you tell us a little bit about the ice cream inspiration? I did a poll and asked people for questions, and people wanted to know, like, what's the inspiration for the ice cream cone and all that. I'm sure there's a baseball reference there, but tell us.
Dairy guy.
Yeah, so there's actually a great story on this one. So again, because we drop so many products so often, right? You're taking another shot for the title every Friday. So it allows us to kind of work through like, hey, what's our best product? What's something that hits? So we had dropped this frozen ropes collection. If you don't know what a frozen rope is, when you hit a baseball super hard, it shoots straight out, doesn't move, doesn't curve, doesn't do anything, call it a frozen rope. And so we were like, we're going to do this frozen ropes collection, made this full t-shirt that was a ice cream cone with a baseball in it. And on the back had all the flavors. That did super, super well. It ends up being that we find out about trademarks, right? Because of that. And somebody had trademarked the idea of frozen ropes. And we were like, okay, we have to pivot. So we changed it a little bit. But from that collection came those shorts to match the t-shirt and do everything. And then from there, there's another brand in our space who really pays a lot of attention to what we kind of do. And they also went viral for a similar product at the same time. And that just allowed us to explode and really, jump out there with something great. And now, again, you guys are seeing that those came out in 2023. It's 2025, and they're still crushing.
That is wild for that trend to continue to ride that far. It's pretty amazing. Oren.
Yeah, I want to dive into the drop mechanics just because obviously putting products out every week for that long is a complicated thing and people hear that and they go, oh my God, how does that all work together? What is that kind of workflow like? How far in advance are you planning? What does it take to actually execute a weekly drop at that scale?
Yeah, so way more complicated today than it was a couple of years ago. When we first got started,
For our products, yeah.
so actually when we first got started, we were utilizing some of the print on demand services and things that were out there. That allowed us to kind of test out and be like, okay, do people like this? If people liked it, we then converted it from direct to garment into full production, screen printing, everything else. And that allowed us to kind of test out where things are. And in the early days, it was less about the quality of the piece and it was more about just speaking to the audience that we're talking to and having something that felt like it was resonating and saying what they were about live and in real time. So we got to take all the different slivers and all the different slices of who baseball players were and who the fans were and who everybody else was. Every Friday, we got to kind of hit them with something. As that has evolved, it's gone from just, one product to full scale development production. So I'm here in Omaha. Our manufacturer from China actually flew in, Roger. He showed us new samples out here. We were choosing through clothing. So like it never stops. I now have people on my team who manufacturers for Easton, Marucci, Gildan, Under Armour. I have our head of supply chain, our vice president of supply chain. She was a designer at J. Crew. Guess she does consulting for or has done consulting in the past for like Victoria's Secret, MeUndies, a whole bunch of other people. So we've now just layered in like really, really great manufacturers and a really, really great team who knows how to scale production. And then we're just better at volume than other people. I think that we've just decided that, you can play that game and you can go super hard. A lot of the people who don't want to do it a lot of the times, like to be blunt, are just lazy and you can blame it on a whole bunch of other things. But we just have a culture that's about that life. So every Friday we're just ready. So we do fashion shows once a month. We look 3 months out. We are picking through things. We're making sure we do focus groups. We sneak peek stuff into our things, right? I'm sneak peeking something that's coming out in a couple of months on my head right now. I was before too, before we got started. We got, in 2 weeks, we got a collection coming out with Monopoly, collab with Monopoly. We can talk about a viral moment. I was listening to your guys' last pod. So if we want to talk about viral things, I got a lot of those in the hopper. So we just have built a real internal thing for going to market. We crush go to market strategy.
Any channels in particular that you're surprised by on that, email or SMS or anything where you're like, man, this has been crucial for us?
Oh, email. I from very, very early on, I said to our CMO Melissa and Josh, Instagram could change, right? Facebook could change, anything could change. Your email list will come with you no matter where you go. So let's really cultivate and curate that. So Melissa took huge impact on what the email marketing strategy was going to look like. And we're going to send out an email in an hour and 30 minutes. And we'll probably do 7 figures today on our drop per today. Our email just crushes. We every Friday we do $250,000 just through our email list.
Some we harp on a lot, especially with other influencers and stuff, where it's like, hey, if you haven't started moving that audience, like there's so much opportunity there. Before we hit on the viral items, you mentioned the Monopoly collab. Any other collabs that you're like, you were super stoked to do or that had a real impact on like expanding your audience?
Nothing yet. Like we're just getting into the collab because obviously if you're in clothing right now, or if you're in just branding in general, you have to look at Kith and think they're doing like this incredible job of how they do stuff. And we know they have the Monday program and we have our Friday one. So there's a lot of synergies inside of kind of that bubble that we look at. But, what Kith does to create these viral collaborations, moments, uniqueness, that's what we're really trying to do. Monopoly is the first one. Monopoly for me was one that we really wanted to target also because it comes with a Hasbro collaboration. So anything that lives in the Hasbro bubble, you actually have access to. It's not just, one thing or another. So we have some other things that we're going to do with them. Some I can talk about, some I can't talk about just yet because I got to be a little careful with some. But we want to make sure that we're catering to the audience that we know loves certain things, but also where are there some opportunities. So right now downstairs, if you guys, I'm sure you all know, backyard baseball, Pablo Sanchez, big deal. End of this year, we'll have a backyard baseball collaboration. So we're doing some stuff with them now, doing some live event-based things, building up some presence in our community for it. But we'll have a collection with them. And then the number one played video game in the world, I think I can say that, and you guys can then infer if you want to. We're doing a collaboration with them in Q1, and that's going to be huge. I'm going to actually take over 2 floors of a space in Manhattan, build a whole world inside of a couple of rooms, and then finish off in a cool store. So experiential marketing is huge for me. It's for me where we're going next. That's the next frontier.
What
So
about some of those viral moments that you mentioned? Well, like we would love to get a few of those stories.
Yeah, so I mean the viral stuff is about, having a presence and being there. The thing that I guess that is unique about us is I'm reckless and my partner Josh is not. We're both the opposite of each other. So ultimately, like I am always trying to push the envelope and I don't care if I necessarily make the money back that I can count on my fingers the next day. It just means that I have a little less profit, but like that's okay. I don't care because I know it wins over time. And I've proven, at this point, time and time. So a few things that we've done in the past that just helped us a ton are just being out there early. So in Major League Wiffle Ball, I don't know if you guys have seen like the guys playing wiffle ball and viral things, and there's a bunch of different stuff there. But MLW guys a few years ago really went viral, and a bunch of their stuff started popping up on ESPN Top 10 highlights and all these other things. So I saw them doing stuff, and I saw they had signs in the outfield. And I finally was like, all right, cool. Can you guys reach out to them and see if they'll let us make like a green monster in their left field? It's just a giant baseball lifestyle logo with our website on it. And so we did that. And then that ended up being the ESPN top number one play on Sports Center one night was this kid jumping over the wall, social media, 2.7 million views, then starts going viral and all these things. So now all of a sudden our website's getting huge hits. And we were there early, and so you have to take the risk to get the reward. I just saw that their content was fun. They did a great job editing. They were committed to it. There was a super tight audience of people who loved it. So we just then got out there and we got a huge viral moment from that. Jackson Olsen, again, now he's huge on the Savannah Bananas. People see his face all over the place. Jackson, just as he re-signed with us this year, we're the first company that ever paid him money to do anything in the influencer sphere because we were just paying attention. So as he kind of went viral, we went viral. So he was always wearing our clothes. He was always wearing our stuff. Now people are asking what's going on. We get the carry. And that's about, curating influencers from the bottom up. And we do a great job of, we find great creators who have 2,000-3,000 people. Yep. Right there in that left field wall. And a guy went up, caught it, pulled it back. Huge ESPN Sports Center thing, great catch, and just goes. And then Mark Rober put these guys in a Mark Rober video. And now Mark Rober video in the first 30 seconds, you're seeing my left field wall logo. How many times he's got 10 million views on that video. So yeah, that's branding, right? Like that's for me. These are the moments like I got to be where my community is spending their time, right? Both in person, online, etc. And we just go out, find those things. And when we find creators or we find areas where we can recognize the content is great, but the followers aren't there yet, we start giving them money so that they stay in the game. And then they become the influencer. And then we just now have that, before they were big, we have access to all this stuff. Yeah, so this ball is impossible to hit. If you go to the first early opening kind of sequence, then they start talking about it, and they show like some of the things that are going on. Yep, there's my thing. All right, boom.
This video,
And,
this video has been watched in my household. It's got 88 million views, and my kid has definitely watched this video a couple of times. So we have discussed the Mark Rober wheelhouse and my guy. You are living in our kids' world, and it's pretty brilliant.
Yeah, it's actually crazy. I'm like sitting next to a stack of Mark Rober boxes. We got the penetration is real.
Yeah, right. So like that's something where, again, you have to just invest and you have to just lean in early and you have to stay committed to some of these things. And then you get those payoffs. Like you guys just said, like I haven't gone back to watch the video 88 million views later. Like it's obviously done great. So how many kids see that logo in the left field wall as they hit the ball over it, right? Like it almost is the first 30 seconds feels to me like an advertisement. And funny enough, again, like I said, we had an agency till recently, pretty much every single sign on that outfield wall, my wife negotiated into that. So like we just were like, hey, this is easy brand awareness for every single brand that we know, in the right community, all the stuff. So yeah, those are some of those things that we do. And then now I'm trying to manufacture even more of those. So actually in 2 weeks, actually 10 days from now, I have a 90-foot by 90-foot giant Monopoly board that I'm putting at the Brooklyn Cyclones field in Brooklyn, right next to Coney Island, in conjunction with the Mets and Monopoly. And we're going to play the world's largest game of Monopoly ever in a sports arena. I've got influencers coming. We have teams. I'm giving away a $10,000 to $20,000 cash prize. I haven't fully decided yet, but the winning team will
It's
get
not
a
too
bunch
late.
of
I'm
money.
trying to be the ship. I just want to be the piece. I'll just move.
Hey, if you want to come, you can get down. You can be part of the team that's part of that piece. So yeah, we're doing stuff like that and really taking that. And I have a few other big moments to kind of tie to our clothing, our collection throughout the rest of the year. But just create those viral moments as best you can. It just comes down to you got to invest early, and then just believe.
Okay, so this partnership with Monopoly is super interesting. Can you tease apart just like how exactly that came to be?
Yeah, for sure. So again, inspiration from people like Kip, seeing what they did with Honey Nut Cheerios, seeing what they did with Kip Treats, seeing where they've gone with some of that. It then becomes okay. We want to get big companies to want to work with us. So who's the biggest company that would be the easiest, quote unquote, to work with that would give us enough gravitas to then have that next conversation with the next people and the next people. So we knew Monopoly. We also knew the team from Iconic Designs, who does all like the artwork on the back wall, right? Go 100%, all the things like that. So Mark from Iconic, he was like, we were like, hey, Mark, can you like hook us up with your Hasbro contacts? So he got us in touch. We negotiated it. They then do negotiations. You can either be just pure licensing or you can be a collaboration where they also are pushing marketing wise with it. They chose that they wanted to collaborate because of our community and our reach and our things. So it ends up just being a great thing. And then I am just a psychopath. So I'm always like, okay, what's the biggest, coolest thing that I can think of? Let's try to set a a book of world records for the largest Monopoly game ever played. The downside to that is you have to make the pieces life size. So they have to be comparable to the size of the board. So like the community chest cards are then 12 foot by 8 foot. The pieces have to, one of the pieces ends up being like 6 feet tall and I'm like, okay, I can't be purely the biggest board ever made. So what can I do? Okay, I can be the biggest game ever played. And then we're a sponsor of the New York Mets, so we do stuff on every time they have a rain delay, our rain delay collection, our logo and stuff goes up. We have the cover on the tarp also, so every time a ball goes over the third baseline, you can see our logos and our stuff. And then we're always great partners. We always tell everybody like we're trying to be the best partner you've ever worked with. So we just over deliver on our side. So we've done a ton of stuff with the Mets. We just did some stuff with the Mets and Mike Piazza. We're going to do some stuff with them and David Wright. So because we've earned the credibility through our content creation and the things that we deliver, they're like, cool, like let's try to make this happen and let's try to do something more detailed and larger. So I was like, cool, I've been looking for a space to put this giant Monopoly board. You guys want to do it? And they're like, F yeah, like let's go. So yeah, they're gonna open up Brooklyn for us. They helped us get in there. We're gonna have the concessions will be open. We'll have VIP spaces inside, and Monopoly like corporate is coming. They're gonna sell the game, the like Monopoly boards. They're gonna do all sorts of stuff. And because of how good this is going and how much they're excited by it, it's actually opening the door that they're gonna some of the stuff that we do next year. They're gonna put more financial side to. And now we're really going to start to leverage their audience, their things to a larger degree. Next 4th of July is going to be my favorite thing we've ever done. I can't talk too much about it yet, but
Wow,
yeah.
that is that's awesome. So I want to switch gears kind of like out of the viral moments for a second and go back to retail and just talking about kind of like IRL presence. You mentioned you guys are going to have this like experiential event in Manhattan, but like first, just to set context, do you guys have any owned retail spaces as of yet? And where are they?
Yeah, so our first one obviously is here in Omaha as a pop up. So we started calling it our baseball lifestyle experience store. We've heard and we've talked about the fact that retail got real boring. So it was just the same stuff over and over again. There wasn't anything else. So we try to do some fun things here. We've had interactive stuff, and then we decided to open up at a few actual like high volume tournament locations. So we have our own freestanding locations at a few of those. And then we opened up on Long Island. We opened up at the Roosevelt Field Mall, and then right near Philadelphia, King of Prussia Mall. So this like Omaha for us, that right now like we'll do probably about 150 to $250,000 in 10 days. It really just depends on how many people come through and get into the space. But we pop this up, we build this location out, we do all of these things, and then today sales start to kind of go through. We try to make sure we have big, bright visuals, showcase some future products, showcase some stuff that's coming out today. Yeah, the stuff on the left there, the two left mannequins, that stuff all comes out today for our 4th of July collection. That then pivoted into those 2 mall locations. And now our mall locations, we're building operational excellence there. So our operational excellence there has allowed us to be that each of our brick and mortar locations that are full-time open, each of them will do over 7 figures in their first year. Our KOP mall will do close to 1.4 million in its first 12 months. And that just really allows us to figure out what that is. Now, end of this year, we're going to open up 5 more: Chicago, Houston, LA, and 2 other ones. I don't think we finalized exactly where we're going just yet. But those locations, again, we anticipate that we'll do at least $800,000. They'll be profitable per every location. And yeah, so retail is a huge part of our expansion strategies there for our own, because I think if we could do that, great. The next step is now like Virgil Abloh from Off-White, right? He said at some point in time, you can't make a better, sweater, you can't make a better hoodie, you can't make a better anything. The objective then is to make a better space that it's presented in. So this entire time we've been here, I've really been hammering that with everybody. Like, how do we really start to over deliver on what the space is like? Taking, again, what Kip has done and a few other people have done, of having these great, amazing experiences that you come up and you're surprised and you're delighted by this newness and this opportunity. And for me, it's more about the marketing. It's more about that first time touch, that first time feel, and having somebody who is out in the world and gets that first experience with us in a tactile environment to not only be surprised by our quality, but be surprised by the place it's in. So those are some of the things that retail experience is going to go. And then, yeah, a wholesale is a whole other game.
And when you mention that, thinking about the space that it's in and thinking about that experience and that impression, are you thinking about that from just like a pure kind of design and aesthetic standpoint, or what else is offered in that experience to pull people in outside of the, products that you sell?
Yeah, it's both, right? So we weren't the company that we are today when our ice cream shorts started to go viral, but we looked around in Cooperstown, which is where all the baseball players descend to Cooperstown to play baseball every year. We actually looked to buy one of the ice cream shops in Cooperstown, and we were going to retrofit one of their cafeteria sections where that you could sit down and eat. We were going to put up a wall and then put a baseball bat and like memorabilia. And then you would pull the bat, you would open up, walk inside, and it would be a baseball lifestyle store with all the ice cream collection. Like, that's the stuff that we really want to start to get into. When the ice cream stuff came out, we just didn't have enough money that I could like offload that as the next decision. Now that we're a much larger company, like, it's more like that. Like, how do I look at my future collections, my future things? How do I look at the virality of what's currently popular with kids? And how do I invest enough into something that has enough evergreen run that I don't have to change my place every 6 months, but also has enough attractiveness in current landscape that, kids need to come see it, for 18 months. So if I could get a redesign every 18 months that, I change over some key areas, I want to get the experience to really be unique. So if, again, Houston is our number 1 city in the country, right? By volume, by sales, by search. Chicago's number 2. So if I look at Houston environment, how do I showcase some things for Houston that are unique? How do I do some things and understand culture in the area, music? How do I understand who the celebrities are, the local celebrities? How do we do some things about the baseball community? Who's the biggest thing there? So that we offer something that Houston people recognize as also being uniquely for them, but also for us is the encapsulation of what our brand represents holistically.
You just need a huge parking lot.
Indeed.
There's
Peanut butter and jelly flavors, perhaps, with some lowriders and elbows. We can run play the Houston
what
playbook.
we got from Houston? You got Lyle Lovett. We could get the whole country tour.
Lyle Lovett.
Me
and Lyle Lovett.
I think there's like an important, insight there as people think about localizing retail experiences, whether pop-ups, so on. I think so many brands get so kind of like locked in their own head about staying on brand and having a unified experience everywhere. And that kind of traps them, right? Where you take this like New York aesthetically designed brand and then you stick it in Houston and it's like, dude, it's just not going to resonate here. And so I think it's really smart and an important lesson for people to think about, like, hey, when you enter a new climate, you have all of these like, microcultures, even though we're in the US, think about how to design and kind of like optimize for those locations so you're not immediately rejected.
So funny enough, a brand that nobody ever talks about who does a really, really great, who used to do at least a really, really great job of that was Ruby Tuesday. You could go into a Ruby Tuesday and on the walls was the local high school teams and their team pictures and photos and things. And it was from all the surrounding like districts and places. So like if you had a team that was the state champions, they had a thing on the wall saying it. So when the family went there to go and have lunch, to sit down, eat there, it felt like they were part of the community, right? So it draws you in. And I'm not sitting there and saying, "Hey, my favorite place to go is Ruby Tuesday." But if I knew my photo was on the wall, I could go there. And when I was a kid, it was cool that I would walk over and I'd be like, "Cool, my photo is still up on this wall." I felt like a mini celebrity. So like we're trying to think about that. How do we find all of the top Houston travel baseball teams, high school teams, everything else? How do we maybe tie some of those, unique people, pictures, photos, moments into our space so that again, it still resonates, that it feels like it's us, but it feels like it's us inspired by them. So I think that's the objective there.
It's funny. I love that for a restaurant because then it's also like associated with celebration. Basically, when you're like, "Where are we going to go after the game?" It's like, the place with the pictures on the wall from these championships. That's a really savvy move. Shout out Ruby Tuesdays retail innovators since day one.
Yes. And it feels like it feels like there could be celebration with ice cream after the game with Baseball Lifestyle 101. One of my favorite things about, like, speak of the ice cream thread that's going is, I think a real good takeaway for brands a lot of times is you should be speaking the language of your target consumer, and so much so that you're confusing people who are not your consumer. And I think, like, can you say any more about like those inside baseball, no pun intended, collection inspirations and designs and verbiage that y'all are utilizing?
So I think earlier we definitely tried like the frozen ropes. Like we knew that people would know, right? So it allowed that product to get a lot more virality because that was represented. Like when you snow cone catch it, it's that you grab it with your glove and the ball is tilting out just a little bit at the top of your glove, right? So we did snow cone stuff and we did a t-shirt. Again, we found out very quickly. If you guys look up our Oppo Taco tee, the Oppo Taco tee was the first thing that was stolen from us by everybody in the world to rip us off and sell it. So that was fun. But also that was the first time we got a cease and desist from Taco Bell. An Oppo Taco is an opposite field home run. Now we have Tacos de Oppo, right? Which is an Oppo Taco essentially. But that's just, yeah, there it is.
Times fast. And then, yeah.
So Oppo Taco hit Moss.
Yeah. You'll learn the trademark game real quick. That one.
Yeah, they were like, "We don't like you guys. You got to take that down." But that one did really, really great for us. We then continued. So an Apple Taco is an opposite field home run. So there's just these little things that like, you got to know to know. But we know we're speaking to our community. But otherwise, you just see tacos on a pair of shorts, and like, what does tacos have to do anything with the game of baseball? It's like really nothing. But like at this point, we can also dictate a little bit of cool. So that's allowed us to kind of take some more liberties of stuff that's going on.
Okay, Taco Bell's CMO is a former Nike guy, and of course, I've got to ask. Of course, my camera just went out. Awesome. But I'm so curious. Y'all are becoming a force against all these big brands. You mentioned like y'all were taking money from Adidas Baseball and others. Can you talk about how y'all think about going up against these big giants in the space who have traditionally occupied a lot of space, and you're this kind of grassroots movement?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I think about that very much so every day of my life. So this year, really for my team, in terms of where we try to market, we're doing the most varied amount of marketing that we've ever done this year. Whether that's YouTube Select and getting on YouTube TV, mastheads, influencer marketing, radio, design. There's places that we're pushing the limits a lot more, sponsoring the Mets. The reason why we're doing that is obviously I know I'm good. I have viral growth, and we're going to grow 300-400% this year versus last year. That's just online. When you take into account wholesale, we'll be close to 700% year over year growth. This is an easy moment from me from a sales that's taking all the past stuff. But I keep telling my team, like, we got to be ready and we got to take up as much real estate and as much land as we can for our ideal customer, learn how to market in a way that's more advanced, learn how to be in the places that we need to, learn how to deploy cash in an appropriate method so that we can do some of these more high level, elaborate marketing campaigns, specifically so that we can go head to head with whoever's going to come up and decide that we've eaten too much of the pie. and they need to either stem the tide, or reach out and try to buy us. But we've already, I've talked to the VP of Global Marketing at Adidas about us doing a collaboration on a sneaker and a cleat. We've talked to a few other bigger ones about doing some stuff. I think at this point in time, we probably got too big that anybody could just crush us overnight. And I've learned enough about how to actually market at larger scale that I'd be a pain in the butt to really take down. So we know we've gotten there and we're on everybody's radar. Fanatics just reached out about potentially doing a collaboration. Like, we know we're now on the radar. The biggest thing is just, again, keeping our pacing up. I want to move faster and do things that they can't do. I want to make sure that I stay connected to the grassroots side of everything that they can't do, because they just don't have the people internally who are as deeply connected at all aspects of it as we are now. No, I know somebody everywhere, whether it's a baseball agent, whether it's, other brands, whether it's, just players. Case in point, like Bobby Witt Jr., if you guys know baseball at all, Bobby Witt, MVP level candidate, Kansas City Royals. Bobby's 24. He's been a fan of the brand. He's been wearing us since he's a kid. We know Bobby, so we show up to spring training. He's letting our staff come out and videotape him doing content and doing everything else and getting stuff there. And then you have Max Clark. So Max Clark his first ever interview he ever did was wearing baseball lifestyle. And he's one of our feature athletes. He's the biggest name in the game for young kids, because he has a huge social following. He pushes the limits. He was the third overall pick by the Detroit Tigers. Got an age 50 OPS in the minors right now. But we have a clothing collection with him. We do some limited edition things there. We just got him super early. He was doing stuff with us early in his life because we were there, and we knew who he was, and we knew what was going on. So the other one right now, who's another future guy, is Dexter McLeon. So Dexter's dad was a Pro Bowl NFL football player. Dexter is the number one rated recruit. He's a freshman, 15 years old. And he's got a big following. He's going to be that guy, right? There he is right there in our stuff, that middle one. Dexter's been wearing our stuff for forever. So we reach out to real kids who love it, but we make sure that we're always right there. And we follow along. We know what kid is the number one rated 12-year-old in the country. So that kid's getting stuff delivered to his house when he's 12. We're out there. We're doing everything with him early. So as he grows up, he's only ever thought that BL was the best thing. So if you look from what we're trying to kind of create from a stacking effect, we have Dexter, who's 15, who wants to be Max, who's 19, who wants to be Bobby, who's 24, who wants to be, Francisco Lindor, who's 31. So how do I create this entire thing? And then every 12-year-old in the country wants to be Dexter. And what do all these people have aligned? It's us. So just how do we create that sequence of events where, it's cooler to be with us than it is to be with Nike, Adidas, and all those guys.
Is BL the next Nike?
Brother, I mean,
I think so. I think the way you're talking about it.
I've never, when I grew up, us old heads, there was only Nike or Adidas. And I think now, people ask me about who would take over Nike, Adidas, or Under Armour or something. I just think it'll be death by 1,000 paper cuts. Yeah. And I think y'all are deeper in baseball than other people are. There's people like Battle who are deeper.
How deep? Note to that, death of 1,000 cuts is baseball, youth, middle America. You can segment, you can build a 9-figure business in so many of the individual segments that Nike has, and you can be way more deep in it than anyone could ever be.
I was going to say, because I think Nike probably has the people internally who know who the up and comers are and all that, but they can't move through the bureaucracy to do the cool thing that you're going to do. They can't move as fast as you. They're not going to be they might be in Omaha, but not on a deep level. Or 5 years ago, it'll be a priority and then they'll go away and they'll decide it's not a priority, or they'll outsource it to Fanatics instead of taking it over themselves. And so I think that was my big fascination with your brand and with what I see as the youth is these kids are dying for baseball lifestyle 101. And my kid has never asked me for something Nike related, nothing. The only thing that has been at this youth level is Under Armour, because they still have Steph Curry, and they, there's maybe and honestly, the other one is Kyrie Irving, and that's an Anta shoe, which is totally not one of the big three or four. So it's really fascinating and very cool to see. And I do think you could be the next, Nike baseball. You don't need to be Nike overall. You can be whatever y'all want to be.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting, I never want to have. I'm an arrogant guy, right? But I think I'm also realistic, to some degree. So I don't want to have so much hubris that I say, yeah, we're the next Nike, because that's let's be the next what we can be, right? Uh, and I think that for us, what we actually look at is more like Supreme and Lululemon, right? So when you think about Supreme, Supreme's a skatewear company, right? 1993, it was about skate shop, and then they became this other thing by crafting that. But there were a lot less people who wanted skateboard culture than want baseball culture, right? Same thing with Lululemon, right? Lululemon is a yoga company, but now they've evolved to be beyond just a yoga company. You look at Viore, Viore is a rock climbing company. Now Viore is more than just a rock climbing company. I think for baseball lifestyle, for us, we look at those as inspirations for how do we need to continue to evolve our quality, our conversations, how we, get ourselves in the market. What actually is all of those things? How do we express those through quality design, moments creation? 70 million people went to a baseball game last year. There's 15, 20 million kids playing baseball. So when you look at all of that, there's more than 70 million people that watched the baseball game last year in the United States. That's before we start talking about Japanese culture, where they both love their streetwear fashion. They love the game of baseball. You talk about Korea, where the KBO has become huge. The game of baseball is global. There's opportunity for us to do other things. So I think a 10-figure company is something that we could get to. But I think that comes down to just making sure that we continue to hire really elite people. We stay hungry for who we are, and we don't allow ourselves to get so stretched by the idea that we want to be this big company that we lose sight of what makes us special. You look at a brand like Gymshark. They went through a little moment where they probably lost a step. And that has more to do with the fact that they went with the mass appeal. They lost who they were. They weren't staying committed to the process the way they could have. And they lost a little of the soul of themselves. We've taken all of those things into account as we try to grow this. So I'd love it to, be as big as it's going to be, but I just really want to keep doing fun stuff and making sure that I do things that, Jordan, your son, wants to talk about. And if I'm doing those things, the rest of it will kind of happen.
One of the things that I want to close out with is I know you're on Twitter. You're kind of adjacent to the e-com Twitter world, which can be a kind of very loud echo chamber. I'm curious, what are some of the things that you think are kind of like echoed constantly that you either just don't do or you think is wrong, or is just like, dude, that's like bullshit. You don't need to do that to like grow this great business.
Facebook ads are bullshit. You used to be able to arbitrage ads as the primary impetus of your marketing. People who weren't good marketers could call themselves a marketer because they put up a post on Facebook and they got a 3 ROAS on a conversion event, right? And that's not me saying that the ads themselves and the platform itself is not a great way to grow your business, and it's not an essential component of what it is. But most of the echo chamber of e-com is saying how much you got to start to have creative diversity. You need hundreds and thousands of ads to get all. If you have a great product and you do great content and marketing there, you're already filling the hopper for what's going to happen next. And the idea that you need to do the marketing in a paid acquisition for top funnel is, to me, the biggest lie, because you want to reach. For me, my customer and my consumer are two different people, right? My customer is the parent, my consumer is the kid. So I have to make content that my consumer loves, and my consumer is not being reached by a Facebook ad. My customer is. So I have to thread the needle there. But I think inherently the part of that that's unique is if you treated all of those transactions that your customer and your consumer were different, right? Even if I was trying to sell, ask to you, right? If I was trying to sell to you, I need to make content that you enjoy, that you want to resonate with, right? And then I have to have a product that you feel like returns what you expect it to have. Most advertising now, right, which is just a sliver of marketing, is just saying, here's a product we think you want, and here's the value prop. Do you want to buy it today on a 7-day click, 1-day view attribution? And that's just not, everybody I talk to, the more people have been thinking about buying the brand for 30 days or more than 30 days or less. So if most of your people have known about you for longer than 30 days before they made a purchase, why is everybody optimizing for a 7-day window of acquisition? And that's where I think that brands have faltered now, is they don't have enough robustness in the content and the things there. And they're too heavily invested in their paid acquisition strategy. And if you go all the way back in time to why a soap opera got made, right? It's stay-at-home mom is sitting there, got nothing to do. Let's put on a cool TV show that tells her a little story, does some other things, but ultimately it's selling soap. Our objective is to sell household products. We're injecting them into the content. So the original content engine, right, are soap operas. And Red Ryder, and let's buy a gun and do all these things and drink Ovaltine. It'll make you strong. Like, we got away from that a little too much, right? And we got into this idea that you have to buy from a click, and that's just not how humans function. And I think that if you invest more time in that stuff, I think that's where more brands could get to an acquisition that becomes profitable, and their brands could stop being these walking zombies that don't actually know if they're profitable because they keep borrowing to get stuff. And you could actually do a business, because I mean, we don't have to talk about it now on recording, but I can show you guys some of our numbers on the back end, and we're very profitable while we scale aggressively.
Well, I think you're preaching to the choir here to the brand fathers. We believe in building a brand and building the content and not be a walking zombie company. Bill, this has been amazing. Where can people find you for ecom Twitter or the brand itself if they want to check out Baseball Lifestyle 101?
Yeah, so I'm on Twitter as @the Bill Rom. So if anybody wants to come, I tweet infrequently, but enough to be dangerous. And then BL101.com, you can check out the brand, see what we have going on. Like I said, we drop something new every week. So you can come back and see what our drop schedule looks like that week every Friday, see all the newness, and you're always willing to help and ask questions. I'm down to answer anything for anybody. So appreciate you guys having me on to talk.
Perfect. Next time we'll dive deep into geopolitics and the crucial work you're doing there. And until
I was waiting, I have a lot to say.
Well, maybe the Brand Fathers live stream will come to the next Monopoly activation or something. Ashwin loves the West Side Highway, so maybe there's some baseball integration over there as well.
We can do a custom drought.
Love it.
All right, Bill. Hey, keep up the good work, and thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Bill.